Hello, this is the third of 6 videos in which I try to provide a short introduction to the Baha'i faith. I will add some references in the notes below the video. In the present video, one of 2 dealing with major Baha'i beliefs, I will deal with the importance of Baha'i texts in defining authoritative Baha'i beliefs and what we may term theology and metaphysics. In the second video, I will turn to the Baha'i view of the individual and social life. First then, regarding texts. The Baha'i faith is very much a religion of the Word, its authoritative teachings being derived from the original writings of the successive leaders of the faith, and in the case of Abdu'l-Baha, also approved transcripts of his public talks. Some eyewitness accounts of what the leaders said and did are widely circulated for their inspirational value, but they're explicitly discounted as sources of Baha'i doctrine. It is relatively easy for all Baha'is to identify official Baha'i teachings, and there is now an extensive archive of original writings which comprise the religion's canonical texts. Given that a very large part of the Baha'i writings was originally composed in Persian or Arabic, authorized translations are of great importance, those by Shoghi Effendi into English having the highest status because of his official status as an appointed interpreter of the teachings of the faith. Although much still remains to be translated, there are already over 40 volumes of authoritative Baha'i writings in English. These include 12 from the writings of Baha'u'llah, 8 from those of Abdu'l-Baha, that is excluding the unauthenticated oral translations of some of his talks, 15 from Shoghi Effendi, and 5 from the Universal House of Justice. There is only one, a compilation of extracts, from the Bab. In addition, the Universal House of Justice's research department regularly prepares compilations of Baha'i writings on various subjects. There is no Baha'i sacred or liturgical language. Arabic, Persian, and English have a special status as the languages of the original writings of the Baha'i leaders, but access to and understanding of the texts is what is regarded as of primary importance, with the result that extensive translation programs of Baha'i scriptures and other literature have been an important part of Baha'i endeavor ever since the faith first began to spread outside of its Middle Eastern heartland. All Baha'is are also strongly encouraged to become literate and to ensure that their children become literate, in part so that they can have access to the faith's writings. Baha'is recognize that individuals will have their own particular understandings of the Baha'i teachings, but are warned not to allow differences in interpretations of the Baha'i writings to become a cause of disunity. Each individual has a right to his or her own understanding, but no one has a right to force their views on others. There should be respect and tolerance for differences of viewpoint, but also a humble recognition of the limits of human understanding. Dogmatism and fanaticism are to be avoided. There is a massive Baha'i secondary literature in many languages, particularly in English, including commentaries on Baha'i texts and expositions on numerous aspects of Baha'i belief and practice. But there's a careful distinction between these works and the authoritative texts of the successive Baha'i leaders. Turning now to matters of theology and metaphysics, let me first say that the Baha'i faith is strictly monotheistic. Some understanding of God can be gained from his names and attributes, which are numerous. These include the Almighty, the All-Sufficing, the All-Loving, King of the Realms of Justice, the Inspirer, the Help in Peril, and so on. And more generally, all existence is seen as reflecting God's image, and every created thing in the whole universe is seen as a sign of God's sovereignty. Ultimately, however, God in essence is unknowable. He is exalted above human understanding, so that all human conceptions of God are mere imaginations, which some individuals mistake for reality. Therefore, knowledge of God is primarily to be achieved by way of his messengers, the manifestations of God. This term, manifestations of God, is a distinctive part of Baha'i doctrine. According to the Baha'i view, these manifestations of God represent the divine presence to humankind. They include the biblical and Quranic figures of Adam, Abraham, Moses, Jesus and Muhammad, as well as Zoroaster, Krishna and the Buddha, and for the present age the Bab and Baha'u'llah. Distinct from God, they mirror his glory and reveal his attributes. They are the primary means through which human beings can approach God. They are the bearers of divine revelation and law, and the source of transformation and empowerment in the lives of their followers. Whilst each of the manifestations has his own specific mission, which leads their respective followers to see them as different from each other, they share an essential unity which transcends the diversity of the world's various religions. Each is authoritative and infallible. Various other figures, lesser prophets in Baha'i parlance, also provide divine guidance to humanity under the shadow of the manifestations of God, as for example the biblical prophets Isaiah, Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Again, it's believed that some manifestations appointed successors to guide their followers after their deaths, most notably in the case of the Baha'i leaders succeeding Baha'u'llah under the doctrine of the Covenant, and the Shi'i Imams in Islam. Closely linked to the doctrine of the manifestations of God is the Baha'i belief in the essential unity of religions. For Baha'is, the development of the Baha'i faith forms part of a single overarching history of religion on this planet, symbolically starting with Adam, seen as the first known manifestation of God. The major world religions recognized by the Baha'is, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam in the West, Hinduism and Buddhism in the East, are incorporated into the schema, and their founders honored as divine manifestations with the fundamental unity of mission. As God is believed to have guided all the peoples of the world, the existence of other religions and revelators is assumed, but there's no official list of these. At a popular level, many Baha'is, for example, are evidently willing to add various Native American prophets to their personal list of divine messengers. The essential unity of the major world religions is seen as both recurrent and progressive. Thus, on the one hand, each of the divine religions expresses eternal moral and spiritual truths, which are proclaimed and renewed by their founders, each new manifestation representing the coming of a new spiritual springtime, bringing new life to a world made spiritually cold and dead by the neglect of the teachings brought by the previous manifestation. At the same time, however, each religion represents an evolutionary stage in a single and eternal religion of God, progressively revealed to humankind, a process which Baha'is term progressive revelation. This schema is also believed to account for differences between the religions, in that each of the manifestations of God brought divine teachings appropriate to the spiritual capacity of the people of their own particular time and place, so that there were certain aspects of religious truth which were relative to their recipients and not absolute. For example, whilst all religions enjoin honesty and piety and condemn murder and theft, they may have different laws concerning social institutions, such as marriage and the treatment of criminals, as well as employing different conceptual frameworks to present theological and metaphysical ideas, many of which, according to Baha'i belief, are essentially beyond human comprehension. Some of the religions are also linked together by prophecy, with the coming of the next divine messenger being predicted in the scriptures of the past, most notably in the case of Baha'u'llah, whose coming is believed to be foretold in all religious traditions. Let me now turn to the question of evil. Of Baha'i descriptions of the nature of reality, the most striking perhaps is the view that evil has no objective reality other than in the evil deeds of human beings. There is no devil or Satan, nor evil spirits, nor demonic possession. Rather, God's creation is good, and the material universe is pervaded by the Holy Spirit, the Logos, the primal will. It is human rebellion against God which generates evil, and human wrongdoing which provides the clearest examples of it. I will talk about the concept of sin, which is obviously related here, in the next video. As to the Baha'i conception of knowledge, this is multifaceted and incorporates what I see as a certain natural tension between what we might term authoritarian and anti-authoritarian elements. The notions of the absolute authority of the manifestations of God and of the infallibility of the successive Baha'i leaders suggests an essentially authoritarian conception of knowledge. Yet, at the same time, the Baha'i writings emphasize the importance of human reason and scientific inquiry in a manner that is intrinsically anti-authoritarian and anti-dogmatic. Not only is true religion proclaimed to be subject to the test of reason, but opposition to knowledge and science is described as a sign of ignorance and is to be condemned. From this standpoint, to oppose reason in the name of religion is a sign of superstition, and at the present time it is held to be ignorance, not science, which threatens the foundations of religion. From a Baha'i viewpoint, contemporary irreligion and the growth of secularism has developed because of the dogmatism and irrationality of many religious people. This said, the Baha'is maintain that there are limits to human understanding. We should always seek knowledge, but be humble in the realization that there are some matters, God, creation, the human mind itself, which are ultimately beyond our complete understanding. Correspondingly, we should be tolerant of a diversity of understandings of such matters. Thank you for listening. In the next video I will discuss Baha'i views of individual existence and social life.